Now, let us, without further ado, go straight to Angela Levin, our favourite royal biographer, on this happy day, the Megxit anniversary. Angela, a very, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
Now, I don't know, I have mixed feelings, I suppose, today, because on the one hand, I'm quite glad that they got rid of their titles, the HRHs, but I rather would like to see them also not using Duke and Duchess of anything as well. But I'm also rather happy that they've left the country, I must say.
Yes, I think they got to be a bit of pain in the neck, really, this constant grumbling when we were then, a year ago, hit by the pandemic. And it was terrifying. We've got used to it now. We stay at home. You might want to fight in, as you said, round pubs, but on the whole, people accept what it is. But then it was terrifying for us. Suddenly, people you loved were dying. You couldn't go out. Couldn't go to work, and here they were moaning and groaning. The Queen handled it with aplomb, of course, as one would expect. And although they put up on their Instagram account that they were stepping back and they didn't want to be members of the royal family, but they would like to occasionally pop in and carry on with their patriotism, the charities they support. And the Queen said, well, you can't do this, but let me give you a year. It was very grandmotherly Queen. It was extraordinary that she would allow them to use their titles, but not HRH, for a year. They always had the right to come back straight away if they wanted to. They were much loved. And although she'd been quite insulted, in my view, she behaved with her normal dignity. So here we have them both in a grand house with 16 bathrooms and loads, apparently an avalanche of work to be done. They've got Netflix, they've got Spotify, they've got books to write, they've got these two huge jobs that Harry's got that he seems to be going to rake in millions. Meghan seems to be moving towards a political career. And so you'd think in their terms, they were very happy, very successful. And on a personal level, they had little Archie, who's nearly 2, and another baby on the way. So why grumble? But they're still grousing. What they wanted was their freedom, was the ability to earn their own money and privacy. Well, they've ditched 2 and they've managed 1, but they're still complaining that Prince Charles isn't giving Harry any money, age 36.
It's incredible, isn't it? And yet, Charles, as far as we know, was still providing money for his security detail, my understanding was. And also, I believe that last year, Charles gave him about 4 million quid. But he's also got 30 million anyway from his mother's trust, hasn't he?
Yes, that's 30 million from Diana as a result of the divorce, and also includes money from Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who left William and Harry some money when she died. And Harry's got more than half because William will inherit all sorts of things when he steps up, when Prince Charles inevitably at some point becomes king, and he will inherit more money. So all of that has been trying to look after Harry so he doesn't feel the spare as to the heir. He's got independence, they love him, what he does is important. And indeed, he was doing great important things. I was working with him for over a year. And he was brilliant with people. He had a magic quality inherited from his mother where he could help people feel that their life was worth living. But he used ordinary language and he cracked jokes. Now I don't understand what on earth he's saying. I don't understand his titles. I don't understand all this dissemination of information. I mean, it is so pompous. It is so...
Well, this outfit that he's gone to work for as Chief Impact Officer, I mean, I've never seen anything so ridiculous in my life, where these people go around talking to people in companies and helping them, to communicate with each other. And you just go, what are you talking about, man? What is going on?
Yeah. The interesting thing to me is that people have to pay a monthly contribution of £365. Now, what he was really good at was helping the underdog, helping children who had been abused, teenagers who had been thrown out of schools and pubs and everywhere. Ex-army people who had been damaged psychologically or physically. also with no money. How on earth is anybody who's not rich going to be able to afford 365 pounds a month? But also, Harry is terrific at the quick reaction. He would talk to somebody for no more than 5 minutes, make them feel wonderful, change what they felt about life. It's not continuous. We don't know yet how many hours he's going to have to work, but this is a proper job. He'll have to get up in the morning early, doesn't like. He'll have to work all the way through, and they accept there are times that he can go and have a yoga lesson in between. And he's a punch bag if he's angry. So, all things are covered. But it just seems to me such a phony thing.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because we all know why they've hired him. They haven't. I mean, as somebody pointed out to me, what on earth is he doing representing an organisation which helps people with their mental health when he's clearly not qualified to do that, not least by admitting that when Meghan said that she was suffering from mental health problems, he didn't seem to do anything about it.
Well, he said he couldn't trust anyone. He didn't know who to turn to, which is one of those things they said that is very, very hard to believe, because he could have gone to the person who helped him.
Yes.
He could have gone to any of the doctors who hover around. There's lists of doctors that the royals can get hold of, very, very quickly.
And of course, they're all going to be discreet, aren't they?
Pardon?
They're all going to be discreet. It's not as if they're going to sell their stories to the Sunday papers.
But Meghan could have gone to her own gynecologist and said, I feel depressed. They ask you.
Yeah.
I've had 3 children. They ask you, how are you managing?
Yes.
Mentally, physically, every other way. So it puts him in a very bad light to do this. Nor did he have to have a proper interview. The job was worked around him, which sounds very unappealing.
Well, they just want his name on the door. That's all they want, isn't it? They don't really care whether he does a stroke of work or not.
It's fantastic publicity. You think, I'd never heard of this company before. Now we all know about it. We know what it is.
And people will hire them on the basis that they might get to chat to, somebody from the British royal family.
Yes. But meanwhile, the royal family back here in London are thinking, is he abusing his title? The Queen is very, very determined that senior members of the royal family, not junior ones, but senior members of the royal family, must not use their title to make money out of it.
Right.
And that's exactly what they're doing.
Well, because they can't really do anything else, I suppose. But a couple of things that have come up, and one today from Tina, who says this, has Harry got himself a green card so that he can work in America? Now, that's quite an interesting question because, I mean, having worked there myself, there are different visas that you can get. He's entitled to a green card because he's now married to Meghan. He's entitled, I think, after 5 years of residence, if he wants to become a citizen. But will he need to get a green card, do you think?
No, he doesn't. He's already got the okay. He's got an okay which is reserved for people with unique, incredibly special talent.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what it's done for a couple of pop stars before him. And now he can easily go into that and not worry about a green card because he's a senior member of the royal family. So bang, that is immediately using the royals to make money, because otherwise he wouldn't have got the job.
But will he not also have to pay tax on the money that he gets from this company?
I think he's got an excuse for that as well.
That's
for the
nice.
moment.
That's great. Yes, what a great life. I mean, the rest of us, I went to America when I was 23, literally with $100 in my pocket, which I spent the first 2 days I was there. Got myself a job, got myself a social security number, paid tax, formed a company, made a lot of money, bought a house, all before I was 36, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, I think most of us have got that get up and go at a young age, because you're excited about being grown up and in the world. But Harry hasn't had to do that. It's been quite the reverse. But I don't mind Meghan encouraging him to work hard. That's jolly good. But I think that not having to pay tax initially, not having to work or convince people of your value with getting a green card, not having to go through an interview. This is really royal privilege.
Yes.
And they keep saying they don't want to be royals and they're not royals, but they're absolutely using every opportunity to take advantage of royal privilege. I wouldn't mind if they admitted it. But instead of which, they're moaning and groaning about their lives.
Yes, and they're also kind of painting this picture of these kind, compassionate people who only want to help people. And that's absolutely couldn't be. I mean, look at what's happened since they've done that interview. Sharon Osbourne's lost her job, and I'm sure people won't be crying into their tea about that because she's got plenty of money, and that's fine. But she's no longer working on that TV show in America. Piers Morgan is out of a job. I don't know what you made of his piece on Sunday, and I'll be interested to know whether Meghan had somebody read it to her, given that she says she doesn't read newspapers, but I bet she read that.
Yeah, she's got a team of 12 who would read it all for her, and Harry. But the point of that is, it doesn't matter whether the people who've lost their jobs are rich or not. It's the appalling thought that if Meghan says something about somebody's job or feels that she's being criticised, that person is immediately taken out of their job.
Yeah.
No more questions asked. There's no balance.
Yeah.
It's just,
and I think since you and I spoke last, Andrew, another one's bitten the dust. Haven't they lost another kind of high-profile woman that was working for them?
Yes, a very senior woman who had an amazing job in America, actually left very quickly from them. And she said quite tactfully that she was asked to do a lot of things that weren't in her contract to do.
Yes.
Now, I don't think you could take that she didn't mind making someone a cup of tea. I think you could take that she was overworked, she was shouted at, and she was treated like a servant rather than being a senior member of staff. And this is just yet another one, as you say. They can't keep people, and I think this is... Harry used to be very friendly with journalists. You should go and have a drink with them in the pub if they've been on engagement together. But he's got very superior lately. And Meghan, because she hasn't had the experience of growing up in the royal family or even a very rich or aristocratic family, she feels that she has to be superior and is actually very rude and demanding. And not very pleasant. I mean, we discovered quite recently when they were in Australia that she wanted to take various people banana cake. And in the middle of the night, she contacted the staff and said they had to go out and find the ingredients and make this banana cake. And they made it, and it was no good. So they had to make another one and another one till it was all right. Yeah. And then she told the people she was giving it to that she'd been up all night doing it. It's not the way.
It's really not. What's the latest from your perspective, Angela, on the bullying investigation at Kensington Palace? What's happening there, if anything?
Well, I don't know what's happening. I mean, they've wanted to keep it very, very quiet, and I think that's what they've done, and I think quite right too. It's very difficult to trust Harry or Meghan because it seems that if they tell the men a thing, they're going to pass it through to make sure it gets up on social media. When Prince Charles and Prince William rang Harry and spoke to him, this is the initial thing, the start of making peace within the family. 2 days later, it was in the press that the conversation was, didn't go anywhere.
Well, exactly. But also imagine how William now feels about that, because he obviously decided to reach out to his brother to have a conversation with him, which might have been quite a difficult decision for him to make. And having done it, he then gets it all leaked to CBS This Morning, thanks to her.
Yes, they called it unproductive, and I think that word might boomerang back into them, because a lot of people who don't know whether it's true or not about a lot of the things they said will all know about a row in a family. We all fall out with certain members of the family, big or small, at some point, and you then make peace, but you don't go around telling everybody what it was. And this is, they always think globally, this is telling the world globally that it was unproductive. And so I think they'll be very, very careful not to leak anything. And I'm very pleased lawyers are investigating the bullying, because you never know who could slip up and say something. And,
do you think that this whole episode with Oprah was kind of designed for what has now happened with Harry, so that this was his kind of stamping of his authority and identity, if you like, on America? He's now been hired, we're told, for a 7-figure sum from this self-help organisation. He's also working with James Murdoch's wife in this, fake news foundation in Colorado. Do you think that's job done now for them? So they're now saying, well, look, now we've got some income coming in, we can sort of take a bit of a back seat.
No, I actually think that Meghan is not someone who's likely to be satisfied. She's so ambitious, which is very good, but she's so resentful if anybody does anything different or better than her or attracts more attention. I think she was working, well, I know that she was working with Oprah Winfrey for 2 years to get this interview.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that Harry came along as an appendage 2/3 of the way through, who was looked very, very uncomfortable, didn't want to speak about this and that. He just had to go along with it because, as he said before, they got married. What Meghan wants, Meghan gets.
That certainly seems to be true. What about this other remarkable story this week? And it's been around for a while now, but the sort of the background to the whole Martin Bashir interview, which you and I will remember well. Not everybody does, but it was a massive event at the time, even bigger really in a way than anything that Harry and Meghan have done. But Tiggy Leg Burke seems to have been the focus of much of the ire that Princess Diana felt. She seemed to think that basically Charles was having an affair with her. Some conversations went that Bashir told her that she'd had an abortion. I mean, it's quite remarkable what's coming out about this.
Yes, it is remarkable. I think the worst thing is what was revealed today, that there were fake invoices that proved that she'd had an abortion, or alleged was supposed to prove. And that's what Martin Bashir put forward and showed her. And I think we have to take ourselves back to the mood that Diana was in. She was desperate. She'd lost everything, really. And the only thing that really kept her going were her children. And if she thought that Tiggy would take them away from her, because she was a marvelous nanny, she was a grown-up nanny for teenage boys. Yeah. She was 26, loved boys' sport, very cuddly, good fun, like pillow fights, all the things that young boys would like. And when they split up, Charles wisely took her on. She also came from a good background. And so she was in competition, and Diana wrote her a long list about what she couldn't do, like be photographed with them or be in the bathroom when they're there. She was desperate to hold on to the love of her children. And I think I just feel great pity for her, because that was the last thing she could lose. She couldn't bear to do that. When you add that to the fact that all these fake documents said that the Queen was going to stand down and Prince Charles was going to take over as king, but he wanted to get rid of her and Camilla, and so that he could marry Tiggy because she was more suitable. And I mean, that is terribly worrying for a young woman who is not mentally stable and lacks enormous confidence. And I think
it's quite a cruel thing to do, really, isn't it?
It's terribly cruel. And actually, it's changed history. I don't like looking back and saying if only, but certain things wouldn't necessarily have happened if those false pieces of paper hadn't been shown to her. And I think that's really, really sad.
Yes.
For the boys.
It is, absolutely. And we've seen Charles talking about the possibility of having a kind of transition period before he is to take over, because, of course, it's been an interesting year for all sorts of reasons. William has celebrated his 10th wedding anniversary with Kate, and he's emerged as a kind of very much a solemn but interesting and quite engaging figure, I suppose, more so than you ever thought he would. And Charles is now talking, I suppose, actively about inheriting the throne.
Yes, but he does respect his mother enormously, and he won't talk much while she's still around. I suspect he's got lots of plans. He is a forward thinker. He was thinking way ahead of us about climate change and plastic and organic food way back in the 70s. So he's a forward thinker. But you don't start telling your mother and a 94-year-old queen how she's got to become more modern. I think you wait patiently. It's been a long wait, but he's done a lot of good work, especially for young people. But coming back to what you said about this is the year, I mean, what is interesting is if the Queen advises Parliament to take away their titles, that they can't actually use their titles at all. They can't use Duke and Duchess.
Well, they shouldn't really, should they?
Well, I don't think so. If you're so rude about this country and you're so rude about your family in public, And I don't think you should take any advantage of it. And this is obviously a very good way of earning lots of money and giving the companies lots of publicity.
Yes. And of course, they claim that they don't care about titles, and yet they still keep them. And they complain that little Archie wasn't given one, even though constitutionally he's not supposed to be given one, but he would get one, perhaps later in life. And there's so much nonsense talked by them.
Yeah, I think Meghan was over trying to be the victim.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make any sort of sense. And she said that she didn't care about titles. They wanted to be free. But that's not the point, is it? She's just she has never understood the British monarchy, largely, I suspect, because she never wanted to. And now she's trying to take every little bit of what she had when she was in this country to use to move on and step up and become president or something.
I mean, America's in a bad enough state without putting her into politics, I thought,
I think she hasn't got any emotional understanding, and she has a different rule for her than she does for the rest of the population.
Yeah. Also, I wouldn't recommend that she goes into politics if she's got such thin skin. She doesn't seem to take criticism very well, does she?
No, I think they say that if she does go into politics, that she will get far more criticism, and her background and all the things she's done in her life be looked at under a magnifying glass far more than she had as a royal. I mean, I wouldn't know whether that's true because I've never been a politician or tried to.
Well, I think she certainly won't get away with just saying whatever she thinks and making out that that's what happened, because people might actually go and figure out whether it did.
Yes, absolutely. The investigation's non-stop, and she will blame everybody else but herself for it.
Yes.
I'm a great believer in the public. I think overall we're quite sound.
Yes.
And you people, and I think that they will see through her. She's got lots of qualities, but unfortunately she's got this real bitterness inside. Don't know where it comes from or why, but that's what she's got. And this, I must be a victim, so I've got everybody doing what I want.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, great to talk to you as ever, Angela. Thank you very much indeed. Angela Levin, royal biographer, on the anniversary, such as it is, of Megxit, which is actually officially tomorrow. But of course, as ever, here at the Independent Republic, we are ahead of the game.